Hi, thanks for watching. Well, it's been a while. There's been internet troubles, there's been mobile phone troubles, camera troubles and all kinds of things, but what is life if it is not a collection of troubles to get through, interspersed, we hope, with good times. And a collection of troubles is what I want to look at now, because we're coming up to yet another Mercury retrograde, so I'm going to try and explain what I can about this one and about Mercury retrogrades in general. So let's take a look at that first, Mercury retrogrades in general. What happens? What actually happens? You know, it's an out there astrological, philosophical thing almost, but what actually happens? Plenty actually happens. Now, Mercury in retrograde, like all the planets, which all go retrograde actually, except the Sun, because we go round it, Mercury goes retrograde, and Mercury actually does that about 4 times a year. And depending on the sign Mercury is in when it goes retrograde and the general timing of astrology that's going on, it will have more or less effect, and it depends on the sort of karmic implications of our own lives. The lessons we need to learn will be involved in the effect of Mercury retrograde as well. It's remarkably well tailored to us on a spiritual level. On a physical level, what actually happens is that Mercury appears to be moving backwards through the sky. It doesn't really move backwards through the sky, not at all, but as it's going forward on its journey, it's going from side to side like so. I've explained this so many times, but I like to keep doing it. So it's going forward really, just side to side, but because we're standing here looking at it, it actually looks as if it's going one way and then turning around and going the other way and then going back again. And that is a Mercury retrograde when it appears to be going backwards, and it's the way we see the stars that principally affects us. That seems remarkable, doesn't it? But you've only to think of full moon actually for a good analogy there. It's basically because all the light is on the sun and we can actually see the sun's light being reflected back to us, and much of that light is actually reflected off the earth as well. And so that is how the effect actually works. Perhaps it's something magnetic, I've no idea. There are people doing experiments on that, and it is very, very interesting actually. But nothing is cut and dried, nothing is hard and fast, nothing is guaranteed, and nothing I'm going to say now is guaranteed either. But for thousands of years, as people have observed Mercury retrograde, they've noticed that there tends to be problems, always something to do with communication. It might not seem to have anything to do with communication, but when you get back to the roots of these things, that's usually what it's about, because Mercury is the messenger of the gods in Greek mythology, and it got that name for a reason. And sometimes, of course, if you've ever been on any kind of spiritual path in your life at all, you will know that what comes to us from the gods is, it's always a help. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make any sense. And Mercury retrograde gets us in touch with blind spots in our own awareness. That's how it does its work. And that tends to come in around communication, because that is where our awareness links to other people more than anything else. And as well as being about us, it's about the world we live in and how we get on together. Tricksters may be exposed, all kinds of things can happen, but basically we get a more firm grounding and a more understanding attitude towards not just astrology, but all the spiritual disciplines in life, and actually the real stuff of life itself. Now, this Mercury retrograde, we're in the pre-shadow already, and that started on July the 7th. And during the pre-shadow to a Mercury retrograde, things just start to go in that direction of being slightly frustrating, things going wrong at the last minute, particularly around communication, and that gets us into travel, transport, anything like that, any kind of communication at all. I mean, for example, during a Mercury retrograde, excuse me, during a Mercury retrograde, it is really not the best time to buy a car, for reasons which I'm sure you can imagine if it's to do with communication. But, you know, travel, transport is in the picture. I wouldn't even buy a new pair of shoes during Mercury retrograde. They don't go on that long, you know, I say 4 times a year. And it does affect more than a month, but the actual Mercury retrograde time itself is only 2 days. Everything before that is the build up to it, and everything after it is the aftermath, when the lessons begin to make sense and we start to see where we're going. So since July the 7th, This is 2018, by the way, if you're watching in the future, which I hope people will. It's all the same stuff, but this is particularly the one we're going through in July 2018. So 7th of July, right up until last Friday, the 20th of July, we were in the pre-shadow phase. It's just the plain pre-shadow phase. Now, today is Monday the 23rd of July 2018, and today and tomorrow are the Mercury Retrograde pre-shadow phase intensified. That's when things start to build up. That's when it begins to sound absolutely real. People do things like lose their glasses, which is why I'm wearing these dreadful things this morning. I just took my glasses off to give my face a wash before I came on to do this, and I can't find them anywhere, and I can't read anything without them. So there you see. It's not a car, it's not exactly travel, it's not exactly transport, but it is very much to do with communication. You know, these YouTube videos can reach all over the world, and I know they do. And by the way, thank you to everyone all over the world, far away from here, who's subscribed to this channel and who watches these videos. So I care a lot about all of you, and I'm getting to know that you care about me, and that is a wonderful thing. It's communication, it's give and take. It can be difficult to understand, and it can be difficult to do anything at all during a Mercury retrograde. I've had many communication problems with my internet and computers and phones and cameras and things, and I'm really astonished that they're working now. I would have thought it would have been at the end of Mercury retrograde that it came back together, but you see, you just never know. You never quite know what's going to happen. Now, the actual time of retrograde, it's going to be at 5:02 a.m. That is UTC, and that is going to be, let me see, these aren't the best glasses in the world. On July the 26th, and of course late the night before on the Pacific coast of the States and Canada. So here in UK, I believe that's actually going to be UTC +1, so it's going to be 6:02 a.m. here in UK. But yeah, that's just the way it goes. It's different all over the world. The actual timing of it seems to matter. Astrologers want to know the actual time of it, and that's why I give it out. But basically, this is something we're coming up to, and the actual time of retrograde is only really just through the end of July the 25th, right through July the 26th. Then we're into the Mercury retrograde phase, which does go on a fair bit, and it has intense times and less intense times. But as we get to the end of August, it's all over by the shouting, and it really is all over on the 1st and the 2nd of September 2018. And it's actually during the week or so before it's finally over, when we really have the post-shadow phase, that things begin to make sense about the lessons we've been getting, about what's been coming into us. It really does start to make sense then. Things don't make that much sense that happen during Mercury retrograde if they're along the lines of communication anyway, or travel, transport, getting on with each other, that kind of thing. Don't make a lot of sense during the actual retrograde period, but afterwards the lessons start to fall into place and we start to know where we're going and what's happening. So this retrograde happens in Leo, right? It's going to be in 23 degrees and 27 minutes of Leo, so it's actually in the constellation of Leo, and this is going to mean feelings around, do we want to be exposed? Do we want to be out there getting in touch with lots of people? Or do we want to hide away? Are we not quite ready yet? And if you're not quite ready yet to kind of get out there and do things, or really for anything that Mercury retrograde is going to throw at us, don't worry about it. The cycle keeps on repeating. This is the magic of astrology. And if, like me, you believe in reincarnation, then our life cycle keeps repeating, and we have got eternity to get it right. I'm really sure about that myself. Okay, so that is Mercury retrograde, July 2018, in the constellation of Leo. We're just about there. In a couple of days' time, it will actually happen. So it's late Wednesday night this week on the Pacific side of the States, and on this side of the world, it's early morning on the 26th. But it's on its way. It's nothing to worry about, but it is very much worth taking notice of. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks very much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you think you can take any more. Leave me a comment and we'll share the journey. Have a great Mercury retrograde. Hopefully now I'm sorted, I'll be back very soon. Thanks again, friends. Goodbye.